Saturday One show live on BBC One, and I'm here with Gethin Jones.
And Alex Scott. And we've got a new home for the week. We are in the BBC studios in Glasgow, right on the banks of the River Clyde, which is looking beautiful lit up this evening, and right in the middle of the biggest conference ever held in the UK, the Climate Summit called COP26.
Yeah, and by the way, everything on our set is made from recycled, reused or borrowed materials. It wouldn't have been very green to bring the green sodas from London, would it?
That's true, so we've been kicking those plastic bottles a lot.
Don't tell them that.
Now, you will have heard a lot about this event over the past few weeks, and we're here to explain why around 200 countries and tens of thousands of people are turning up to make their voices heard.
Yeah, that will include also world leaders such as President Biden, who all got together today for an opening ceremony that featured Sir David Attenborough and the Prince of Wales, challenging them to act now to save the planet.
Yeah, all happening just over the river behind us in the blue zone there, yeah. Flying the wall would be something, wouldn't it? And the Prime Minister Boris Johnson has even said the climate crisis has left us at 1 minute to midnight in the fight against climate change. So the politicians have a lot to talk about, and it all kicked off just a couple of hours ago when Newsnight's Kirsty Wark hosted a special BBC climate debate, literally down the corridor from here, and you'll be able to see that a bit later on this evening on BBC One. But Kirsty's made her way to the One show to hopefully give us a sneak peek of what was said. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for making it.
Delighted. Just down the corridor there, but we can't wait to hear more from you after. Plus, he's Glasgow born and bred. The legendary Sir Billy Connolly has a very special message for the world about his city as part of an exclusive interview. You will not want to miss it.
Toughest interview ever from your wife. Yeah. And our first guest has been all over the globe on some extraordinary adventures. Now as Chief Scout, he's leading his troops right here to COP. It's Spear Grill. Spear, lovely to see you.
Hey, nice to be with you guys. Yeah, Glasgow, come on.
Yeah, Glasgow, come on Friday with your fellow scouts. What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm coming in my capacity as Chief Ambassador of World Scouting, representing 57 million young scouts around the world who are demanding change, positive change from our leaders to do the right thing right now at the 11th hour and do what they can to really protect these scouts' future ultimately in countries all around the world.
Yeah, well, he's only come for the day. Look at the gear you've got.
Look at the gear, prepared for every adventure. But Kirsty, you live here in Glasgow. How do you think the hosting duty is going at the moment? How are things?
I think it's really, as it were, warming up. It's quite good. It's warming. I think the fact they arrived, it was Halloween, and it was Halloween in Glasgow, and people were out on the Raz at the weekend, and they were like, what? The elegance of what have we just walked into? But I think that was nice, because it gave a real feel and a tone for the city, and people have really embraced it. There's lots of people about, and people are putting up with the horrific traffic problems we've got with it, because I think now, this time, I think people really think this is it.
Yeah. There is a real
this
sense
is it, the
of
pressure. I think there's a real sense of excitement here.
Yeah, well, we're going to be hearing more from Kirsty and Bear later, including some of Bear's best behind-the-scenes stories from taking people into the wilderness for his TV show.
Yeah, including like you, Alex.
I know.
And you say that you really impressed him, but we'll get truth from Bear a bit later on.
I hope,
what really happened there.
Bear, say nice things, please. Right, for every person... Yes, he's got to say nice things. So for every person group who turned up in Glasgow, there are thousands of others watching around the world, all with great expectations for a summit that Prince Charles has called the last chance to lose.
Yeah, they all hope to have their voices heard at the conference. Seriously, indeed. And here's why they care so deeply.
It was about 6 months worth of rain in the space of 2 hours.
We've always known about climate change, but never thought it'd be within our lifetime.
All over the world, animals and their habitat are being impacted by the direct effect of climate change.
We're having extreme wet autumns and winters, but then on the other hand we're having droughts as well, which massively affect the crops that we grow.
Here in Somerset, we're on the front line of climate change. If sea levels rise too much, then we're going to have a big climate disaster behind us.
Woodlands like this are under threat. Some of our food webs are getting out to sink, potentially leading to their collapse.
We are seeing floods in Europe and forest fires in America, but further away, the poorest countries are the ones that are really, really struggling.
We are all living on one planet, and this is the only planet we'll ever get, and we have to make sure that this planet will be available for all future generations.
The species that will be extinct.
COP26 is the latest in a long list of opportunities for world leaders to come together and plan out a real and effective change.
This is our chance to lead a global stage and a global ambition.
We need our political leaders to transform their good words into solid action.
I think the time for action has to happen now. Talk has to stop.
If this blueprint genuinely can lead, if it's effective, others will follow suit. They definitely will.
Is our opportunity to reverse course, to change trajectory and build a better future for us, for our children and all the generation after that.
We can all take action daily in our lives to reduce the amount of carbon emissions we make or reduce the amount of plastic we generate.
But it must be done right now. There really is no time left. No time.
So let's be the generation that really puts action before talking.
We're all responsible, and we can all do something positive to make a change.
This is scary stuff, but there's already been a bit of a theme, wasn't there, about action over talking.
I remember 2 years ago, remember that film? It was so scary with tornadoes and big waves and everything. It just all feels so real. We're going to be hearing from Kirsty about what politicians have to say in a moment. But first, we've roped him in, BBC science editor David Shukman, to explain just how much trouble we are in. David, welcome. Do the scientists agree with Bob Geldof? Is the end nigh? Because that sounds just scary, doesn't it?
Okay, well it does, it is scary, but the good news is that the scientists I've been in touch with over many years don't think things are going to be quite that bad where humans become extinct, but they are incredibly alarmed about the way things are going. I mean, if the world does literally nothing, we might see a rise of 4 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, which would lead to some really dangerous consequences. I mean, the rainforests drying out and releasing a whole load of carbon, or huge challenges growing enough food, and of course the risks of mass migration on a scale we haven't seen. But, I mean, the world is doing a bit, not enough so far, so we're not heading for apocalypse, that's the good news, but we are still heading in a dangerous direction.
The world's eyes are very much on where you are right now, actually, the blue zone or the River Clyde to us. You sent us a picture of the media scrum today. I mean, lines of media asking questions all day. I suppose the big question is, what is the key objective for this summit?
Well, it's a huge challenge and there is massive interest, as you say. What they've really got to try to do is limit the rise in the global temperature. Now let's take a look at a graph that illustrates that. So the Paris Agreement, the world's only treaty on climate change, set a target of trying to limit the rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But at the moment, if you add up all of the different things that different countries are doing on climate change, we're still heading for a rise of something like 2.7 degrees Celsius, which takes us into dangerous territory. Now the key is, during the next fortnight, can we close that gap? Can we get greenhouse gas emissions down? Can we bring the temperature rise down? And I bumped into the guy running this whole conference last night, Alex Sharma, and asked him about this, and he said that he's always optimistic, but bluntly the way things are going, he does really need to be.
There's a lot to get through during the next couple of weeks here in Glasgow, and on such a scale it's quite hard to get your head around it. What does it all actually mean? Well, a few degrees might not sound like much, but climate scientists say every extra degree has a massive impact.
Yeah, it really does. And this week, a new study for the UN revealed that extreme weather events are already the new normal. So we asked Ben Rich from the BBC Weather team for a special report to explain what it all could mean for the world.
As the planet heats up, we'll be looking at hotter, wetter weather, with extreme events becoming more frequent and more intense. In July 2019, we saw the UK's highest recorded temperature, 38.7 degrees Celsius in Cambridge. A 2-degree rise in global temperatures could bring the city summer temperatures of 39.4 degrees. In a worst-case scenario where we did nothing and the world warmed by 4 degrees, it could be highs of 42.8. Of course, global warming is a global problem, and just this year, we've seen record-breaking weather. In California, Death Valley hit the highest reliable temperature ever recorded on Earth, 54.4 degrees. That's as the state experiences a so-called mega drought. Canada saw temperatures get very close to 50 degrees, smashing the previous all-time high of 45. The village where that temperature was measured was almost totally destroyed by a wildfire days later. And in Tunisia, the mercury hit 50.3 Celsius, the highest temperature reliably measured, while wildfires raged in the country. The more the world warms, the more likely extreme heat waves and droughts become. So it might seem surprising that a warmer world would also mean heavier rain. But physics tells us warmer air is able to contain more moisture. Cardiff has been named the UK's wettest city. And just look at these scenes from 2020 as Storm Dennis swept through. If the world warms by 2 degrees, the wettest winter days in Cardiff could become even wetter by 19%. 4 degrees of warming could mean 43% more rain. And this is China, where hundreds were trapped on underground trains in Henan province in July, when more than a year's rain fell in just a few days, including 200 millimetres in 1 hour. 200 millimetres doesn't look like much filling this rain gauge, but imagine that falling across a wide area in just 60 minutes. It is a lot of water, and it all has to go somewhere. When it's too much for rivers and drains to handle, that's when we get flooding. However much the world warms, 1.5, 2, 3 or 4 degrees, the more the temperature increases, the more chance we have of experiencing severe weather events like these.
Yeah, thanks Ben. And as David was saying, it's about keeping those temperatures down. Kirsty has just come from a climate debate, which you can see tonight, BBC One 10:35. Looking forward to that. Kirsty, what was the mood like when you were hosting that debate?
Well, I thought the mood was pretty determined. It was great because the big changes, the people in the audience were 18 to 35, and we had contributions from young people on the Mississippi River, in Lagos, also in
Australia, Sydney, yeah.
Actually, we actually had a lovely young woman, Leah Joseph from Sydney, who's 12 years old, who said, you know, when are we going to wean off coal? I mean, she was talking about Australia not doing well enough. She said, when is the world going to be weaned off coal? And the problem is that we've got all these different competing things, because if you energy insecurity in China, they're building more coal-fired power stations. Some of that coal is coming from Colombia. They don't burn coal, but they need the income. So the whole point this time, I think the big thrust is, rich developed countries have got to pony up the money they promised way back in 2009, that actually they will find ways of delivering 100 billion plus between 2022 and 25 each year to help projects, to help people be sustainable. And, you know, after all, it's a rich world that polluted the developing world, you know, and therefore they're saying the responsibility is at your door. So it was a very passionate debate.
Yeah, so, I was going to say, it's the relationship between the countries that's so important. Did you get a feel of that?
I got a feel like we had the Prime Minister in the world on the exit from Greenland, and he was saying, you know, we need the developed world to help us. Basically, in a day, water seeped away from the Arctic of Greenland. They provided 2 inches of water on the floor. That's how quickly it's...
2 minutes. How do I say? 19 minutes.
The young people from all around the world, and their voices are being heard.
Almost
And
there.
it's interesting that there's no way, I don't think, there's no way 5-10 years ago you'd have got the Prime Minister echoing the words of the most famous environmental agitator, apart from, of course, David Attenborough, Greta Thunberg, and she said no more blah blah blah, and that has become a real big mantra for this conference. No more blah blah blah. And tonight, India has just committed to being zero emissions, or emissions neutral, I should say, by 2070. Doesn't sound great, but they started from a really low base. The last 2 decades, as India has grown, it's been incredibly polluting. So it's slowly, but we've got to get there. David Shukman says we can't go up to possibly 4 degrees.
Yeah. No, Absolutely.
It is really fascinating, and you can see the global climate debate at 10:35 tonight, straight after the news on BBC One.
Thank you for joining us, Kirsty. Nice to see you. Have a good week, and throughout this week, we'd also love to hear from you. So get in touch in all the usual ways with questions, or if you've got comments about climate change and the summit.
Yeah, and a big thank you to all of you who've already taken part in our One Change for Our Planet vote. We've had a brilliant response, and there's still time to make your vote heard.
Certainly is. Of course, it's governments who'll make the biggest difference, but experts have told us about 20 changes we can make that could reduce our carbon footprint and help protect the environment. And we want to hear which ones you'd be most likely to choose.
Yeah, to vote, you can go to the One Change website, where there's also films about all the options, plus the terms and privacy notice. Look, they're there.
Yep, big on, they were just about to see us. The vote closes just before midnight tonight, and our green expert Lucy Siegel will help us reveal the results this Friday.
Yeah, this Friday, but still to come before then, that exclusive interview with Sir Billy Connolly and Bear Grylls. He's a man who's used to going on some weird journeys, but even he will be impressed by our next film.
Here's Jennifer Rio with some creative ways people have arrived here in Glasgow in a planet-friendly way.
As a Glaswegian, I've obviously not had to travel far to be at COP26.
Solo minute.
People expected to travel from around the world
Almost
to Glasgow. Many have taken their journey into consideration. They've come up with unique and inventive ways to spend their travel time. One group of over 400 delegates started their conference early by turning their train from Amsterdam into a special mobile climate change workshop. They're arriving in Glasgow at the same time as Greta Thunberg, so it's quite busy at the station. But I'm looking out for Mara, one of the organisers.
Mara! Hi! Let's go this way! A lot of people just came off that train. Who was actually on there?
150 of them were youth activists, youth experts. There were some climate scientists and also some policymakers. So really a mix of people.
Tell me what it was like on board.
It was pretty chaotic, but in a very nice way. So every coach had a central theme, and people would discuss about this theme. And some of the outcomes are that policies should definitely be more ambitious when it comes to travel.
It really is inspiring to see the collaboration taking place amongst young people. But some journeys have been more of a solo effort. Arndt Russell is arriving by more unconventional means. He's an artist who has walked 1,500 kilometres from his home in Germany inside a self-made giant sphere.
You make that look easy. Wow, Arndt, this is incredible. What is it?
This is a sphere of the symbolized we are all united around the world to protect our Mother Earth.
Is it hard to walk?
Yeah, it's not easy because it's 160 kilograms always when you walk, like a little bit going up a hill.
So why have you come here to Glasgow for COP26?
Because I like to meet people and want to unite people.
There are many others who are also hoping that their journey to Glasgow will help inspire people to think differently about how we treat our planet.
So we've come from a place called Runnymede, just out of London, and we've come 600 miles.
Yeah, you made it! Hooray!
I'm a farmer from Lancashire, and I've walked all the way.
I started to walk from Malmö, south of Sweden, to Glasgow. It took 70 days.
So we live in Glasgow, and we're just delighted to have this here in our city, and it's really hard not to get emotional about it, but we're so proud that people have come from so far, from across the world, and it's amazing.
This group of young people have collectively walked all the way from Cornwall.
It must have been quite tough. Did you have to put in a lot of training for those weeks of walking?
Well, we've been a little bit foolhardy in some respects and just gone for it. It does mean that as I'm talking to you now, I've got blisters on both sides of my feet, and also it's been a bit rainy, so my boots haven't really dried.
Soggy, blistered feet, the worst. I love that while that was on, Kirsty was like, they walked all the way from Cornwall. They did. But let's bring Bear back in, because one of the arrivals here at COP26 will be former President Barack Obama. No, Bear, you had him on your TV show. But what were the T's and C's involved? How much danger were you allowed to put him in?
Well, normally when we take guests away, you know, we kind of say to them, come on your own, trust us, don't leave the entourage at home. But obviously with the current sitting president, that wasn't going to wash. I was amazed how many people actually came on the day. Secret Service I thought would be like 10 or 15, but it was like 50 or 60 close ones on the ground. We had snipers in the mountains, helicopters overhead. So it was amazing to kind of see that whole machine sweep into action. But ultimately, he said to me, he said, I want to see the effects of climate change close up. I want to actually see it with my own eyes. We took it to this remote glacier in Alaska, and it was pretty shocking for him actually to see the rate that these glaciers have been receding and the effect that it's having. So that was definitely a privilege of a moment in my life to do.
It's great because I know he's not the only world leader you've taken out and about in nature, and that's a fantastic thing to do, isn't it? Especially with what we're talking about in Glasgow this week. The new book, it's hard to believe that you wrote the first one 10 years ago, but you've been busy. It's Never Give Up, A Life of Adventure. Have you ever been close to giving up whilst filming?
Oh yeah, so many times. You know, I mean, I actually look at, for me this book was only ever going to be called one thing, which was Never Give Up, because I think it's been the key through so much. I mean, you know, there's hardly been an expedition or an adventure or, you know, any of these things where I haven't had a few moments, you know, where, you know, you're up against it, and whether you're bitten by snakes or pinned in white water or caught in avalanches or rock falls, you know, we all have these moments, we all do, we all have these human moments where we feel like throwing in the towel. But I think the lesson that I've learned over a lifetime of these adventures is sometimes you've got to dig deep and you've got to hold on and know that the storm won't last forever, you know, and you just got to keep going, and that never give up spirit, I think, is now needed more than ever, all of it in our life.
Yeah, but when you do take people out, I know that I have been with you, but I suppose people watching at home were just like, well, that's easy for you to say, like, dig deep, and I know you always say that the nature is very revealing. How do you motivate those certain people that think, oh no, I can't do this anymore?
Well, I think the thing is about resilience and never give up spirit is it's a muscle. You know, the more we get used to failing and falling down and keeping going, the stronger we get. And I love it because it's the one thing that, you know, it's not like a natural sporting talent or an academic talent or what you look like or your natural skills. It's something all of us can develop. And people say, how do you develop never give up spirit? Well, you keep doing your best, you keep falling down, you keep getting back on your feet. When I look at my life, and I was never the best or the smartest or the cleverest, but I was dogged and determined, and really never give up. The book is it's just failure after failure, struggle, doubt, fear, fall down, get back up, and I think I've learned that it's so key to life, you know.
Yeah, the failure is the key to resilience sometimes. And Alex mentioned that she came out with you. She never gave up because she won the show. She's brilliant. If you ask her, she'll tell you that herself. What's the real story? How was she?
Well, it's the reason she won the show. You know, she didn't arrive with, you know, you wouldn't have picked her at the beginning, you know, because she'd never done anything like this. She was so out of her comfort zone. But I think what she showed is the pressure went on and the tasks went on and the, you know, physicality and the hunger and the thirst and the exhaustion. She showed that resilience.
She was brilliant. It was the height thing, wasn't it, for you, though?
The height thing. But like Beth said, you're taking people out of their comfort zones and seeing how they react, and I absolutely loved it. And it's been one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever been a part of. So, Beth, thank you. Thank you once again. And the book is out now.
It certainly is, and we'll be heading to Glasgow on Friday with the Scouts, and they'll find a city that's thrown itself into being a great host to the world.
Yeah, that'll come as no surprise to Sir Billy Connolly, who now lives in Florida, but will always be a proud Glaswegian. He's given us an exclusive interview about his life, yes, from the person who knows him best. Gavin, it's who?
It's my Pamela.
How's your bed? I haven't seen you for such a long time, well, since like breakfast.
I like this place. How did you find it? You're so clever.
How did a welder from Glasgow become so windswept and interesting?
You have to start windswept and interesting. And become a windswept and interesting welder. You just go with the flow. When you get ideas, don't squash them. Just carry on as if it's normal.
I must ask you about that suit. I mean, what's a working class lad like you do with a suit like that?
It's a sort of substitute for tattoos. I'm frightened to get a tattoo.
Did other people in the shipyards have like long hair? And...
No.
so you were already exhausted.
They called me Ho Chi Minh.
Why was that?
Because he had a long beard, I had a long beard.
In the book, you've got a chapter all about your welding experiences, and you mention one guy, a welder called Willie McGuinness.
Yeah.
And that he gave you very important advice that changed your life. What was it?
I told him I was going to leave at the summer holidays. And he said, you're kidding yourself on, leave now. He said, there's nothing worse than an old guy sitting here telling you you could have done it. You'll regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. And I did it.
Had you already told him that you were going to be in show business?
Well, I told him I was going to play the banjo, and he looked at me as if I said I was going to the sun. It was kind of weird. I think I liked the way it looked. I loved the sound. It's just a beautiful thing. I still think that.
Billy, you've always been concerned about the environment. So, I suppose that it's very positive in many ways that COP26 is in your hometown of Glasgow.
Yeah. The American announcers on television talk about the president's going to Glasgow. Like it's Moscow. Americans don't live in houses.
Only two. No, 5.
I want you to know that, Chica. You're a beautiful home. Have a nice day. You're welcome. Beautiful home. They'd say that if you lived in a septic tank, you know. Glasgow's always been an important place for ideas. It's a beautiful place, and it's a good place. It's got a big heart, and there's a lot of intelligent people doing amazing things.
People from 200 countries are going to be asked to reduce their emissions drastically. Do you think it's going to happen?
They've got to be told the truth. They've put it nicely to them for years, and it's done no good at all. We'll have to get down to some basics and admit that certain fossil fuels aren't doing us any good. We've got to take it into our own hands and insist on things from our politicians.
What was it you used to say about politicians?
Oh, the desire to be one should ban you for life from ever becoming one.
You kind of accidentally participated in a school strike climate change march with school kids.
I was so proud of them. I was in my hotel in Glasgow, and the guy told me they were demonstrating, they were passing the hotel. So I just waved and joined and signed things. I was really proud of them. At that age, they can do something about the climate, they can do something about the world. Those 50 and 60-year-old guys can't do anything. They can ask nicely, but the young can change things.
So Billy Connolly, windswept and interesting showbiz personality, artist, and now author. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you very much. We must meet again like this. And goodbye!
He's brilliant, isn't he? Every time he says something, you know it's going to be funny. Do you think Billy and Pamela sit down for breakfast and she always interviews him like that?
Just like that?
Yeah, maybe. We'll find out more because there's plenty more stories to come from Billy's new book, which you may have guessed is called Windswept and Interesting. It's on next week on The Win Show, part 2 of that interview.
Yeah, we were asking for you to get involved on the socials. We've had loads of comments that have come in, but we just want to ask you some. For those comments of people asking why we're up here in Glasgow, we have walked the bare minimum team from London with us here to Glasgow. So we're enjoying working with the team here in Glasgow, who have all made us feel very welcome so far.
I'm doubling up. I'll be on Morning Live in the morning too. Themes throughout the week. We'll keep you updated on Morning Live and The Win Show. Thank you to all our guests this evening. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
See you then.
Bye for now.
ATP বিশ্ববাম বাল্লা আজকে কোয়েশ্চেন টাইম শুরু হবে শুধু আইসিসি টি20 মেন্স 2021 খেলা শুরু হলে শুধু 7:45 প্রসারিত টাকা হবে ভালো থাকবেন সবাই আসসালামু আলাইকুম